Hey everyone, it's the Redmen podcast. We've got the dream team back in the studio for this one. We're a week away from pre-season beginning.
How is that possible?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's genuinely ridiculous. And Liverpool, by all accounts, are actually starting later than most clubs.
I've not even had any holidays yet.
I said this in the week when I finally got to a beach, and I was like, you being the obvious exception, but like everyone else had some sort of break in the last few months, and I was like, here's me still doing 21, 22 vibes, and yeah, the season's over, it's well over, and here we are, starting a new one.
I was clever. I took my holiday during the busiest season we've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was pretty smart.
The busiest season, in the busiest period of the busiest season we've ever had as well.
And next season is very much the same for the honeymoon.
Yeah, absolutely. All holidays are in November and December.
Mine very much is in October when we're playing 4 games a week.
He's nailed this.
To be fair, again, blame COVID.
So what we're all doing is forwarding all our emails to him during that period. Oh, Chris, what have you done? Chris has just decided to flash some leg.
I did nothing, and to be fair, it looks like I'm not wearing pants.
Yeah, if you're listening to the podcast and you want to know what's happened there, do check it out. We do stream these live at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning over on the YouTube channel.
The set fell apart.
Apparently with no pants on.
Yeah, Chris, very, very Anchorman style, yeah.
I'm like, you did like heart underwear, didn't you? Like, what do you need there?
Just the black step on, just fine.
Saw a lot of flesh there.
I saw hair.
I didn't see any hair. That was which is to be expected.
Come on, we've been sponsored by Manscaped. You should know where it's at by now.
We've got a kick-off question this week, which we'll come to in a moment. We're going to be discussing the business that Liverpool are doing and the business of our rivals as well, because I think it's interesting to take stock of where we're at. Obviously, all the rumblings and rumours that Liverpool are done pretty much, unless circumstances change. And if they're going to change, they'll change in the next, I reckon, 7 or 8 days.
It does feel like there are some rumours coming back for Liverpool, though, doesn't it? At the moment, it's actually quite exciting.
Yeah, because Liverpool are doing nothing, and all the media outlets are starting to throw random names into the hat again. Yeah,
our clicks have gone down massively since Joyce tweeted that. Jesus Christ, we need to get something manufactured here.
Yeah, 100%. Marco Asensio, yeah. It's like just going through a list of names that are like just exotic enough to whet the appetite. Otavio, which we did a good old chat on yesterday on the summer transfer show. We're going to be doing Liverpool's business. We're going to be looking a little bit, because I did the last fan standing show, and listening to George cry ass about the condition of Chelsea was absolutely delightful. So I thought we'd have a little delve into how they're getting on, which should be good fun. And obviously City United, Arsenal, etc., etc. We're going to be doing podcast extra as well this week, so we're going to take in a bunch of extra questions from you guys and have a general catch up. It's the more X-rated version of this.
I don't normally look at the questions for these shows, but you've done me big time on one of the questions there.
I did immediately think about you with that. I was like, I'm not sure if I've got a good one for this. Chris has definitely got a good one for this. Yeah. I'll just to see if we'll give the answer for the question. I believe the question for this one is, what's the worst reason you've had to leave a job / organisation, and what is the alternative fact reason that you tell everybody? If you want to know the answer to that and what Chris Pager couldn't possibly tell you about on this podcast, do join us behind the paywall over on Redmen Plus just after this.
I don't know. I don't think I know this story. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You might have heard the other version.
That's the clean version. Right. Joe Navata, who's one of our Club Legend subscribers, we got this from the Discord, says, after the transfer window so far, who is currently making up the top 4, 3rd and 4th, as we all know, 1st and 2nd, and why is it not Manchester United? Well, because you pulled me aside earlier just literally to have a little giggle about Manchester United's squad situation.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
We know why it's not them.
Well, yeah, I think they've lost a lot of good players in inverted commas. So they've released Cavani, Mata, Pogba, Lingard, and Nemanja Matic, which, to be fair, like, they're all crap, so I can understand why they've released them. But they are experienced. Like, Cavani wasn't crap, I suppose. Mata wasn't crap. He actually broke into their side towards the back end of the season.
There's probably something like 100 appearances last season across those players.
Matic was playing a lot of football. Paul Pogba, I think, started 6 games last season or something in the Premier League, so he's not going to be a big miss or whatever, but he's a huge name. The reason that I'm laughing at Manchester United is because Basically, Ten Hag wants to get the old band back together. That's all I'm seeing. It's Anthony from Barcelona, and Anthony from
De Jong from Barcelona,
De Jong from
Ajax.
Barcelona. Sorry, Anthony from Ajax. They're looking at is it Martinez? Maybe
Yeah,
are they
from
looking
Ajax,
at as well? Lissandro Martinez, centre half from Ajax. And what's really funny about that is not all the Dutch players work in the Premier League. So if he wants to go and basically sign the Ajax team, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, it's like he's got this like gilded frame of Ruud van Nistelrooy on in the office, and like, oh, everyone's going to be a Ruud van Nistelrooy, and it's like one of them, like you felt to look down on the floor, and there's just like a steaming pile of Mattia Kesman just stuffed to everyone's
What does
shoe.
50 goals in the Dutch league normally mean in the Premier League?
5.
Yes, exactly. That's what he's going
And
to
move
do.
to right wing because of your work ethic.
it's all-
You do
Also-
get to score the occasional hat-trick against Manchester United, though, if you're Dutch.
I'm thinking the more funny thing United is that they are one of those teams you referenced before who were back in pre-season. Ten Hag's back in, and he hasn't signed no one.
Yeah.
Like they're literally training now with all those players gone and nobody, and
They're looking at spending 120 million
but
on like Anthony and De Jong and stuff, and they were
They
giving
do.
us shit about 2 weeks ago for spending loads of money on Nunez.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this, we had a brief shot on the summer transfer show, but like they knew Ten Hag was the manager a long time ago. This should have been boxed off, but they've only just started getting to work at it. It's crazy, and like I say, there's a Man United tax definitely. Teams know Man United in and go right. Throw an extra 20% on top of it, and they're feeling the pinch of that now, and it's hilarious. So for me, to answer the question, right now it's not United. I would stick with the same 4 for now.
Before we move on from United briefly, I just want to draw attention to our good friends over at Stretford Paddock and the recent glut of videos around all this. So,
Christian Eriksen.
breaking, De Jong deal agreed, and that's live as we're doing this. Then how Eriksen fits in. Then it's are United being left behind in the transfer window. De Jong within days. Eriksen decision today. That was a day ago. Why Erik Ten Hag is a transfer genius 7 days ago. Then underneath 4 days ago, De Jong stalls Anthony edges closer. And the DM joins Ten Hag's Ajax wish list. Massive changes behind the scenes. They're just a bit of a shit show, aren't they?
That United sort of Ajax thing, it's just literally just buying players he's worked with before. And that's not a bad thing, to be fair. He knows the attitude.
Worked
and
really well
stuff
for
like
Brendan
that.
Rodgers,
Yeah. Okay.
Joe Allen, and Brady.
But like, no, I am sort of taking the mick a little bit, but they can work out. He knows what type of player they are. It's just going to take a long time, I think, for Manchester United to get anywhere near where Liverpool and Manchester City are, and they can improve and still be 25 points adrift.
Yeah, and I think anything. I think Arsenal have gotten better than them.
Arsenal and
so far.
Tottenham are where I'm looking and going, I like your business so far.
Yeah. I still back Chelsea's squad. I know they've lost a few, and the names they and link with I think are good players.
Like the Leicester and all that.
Well,
type
even
of stuff
even
as well.
just like Sterling,
replacing Rudiger, Sterling coming in.
Sterling and Dembele sounds decent if Dembele can stay fit. Sterling, I think, brilliant. I'm surprised Man City are letting him go, but yeah, United. I think Arsenal have overtaken United. I think the business they've done or are about to do, it looks close. Like Vieira, Jesus. Maybe Rafinha, they've already got Vieira as well. I'm liking their business. I think Tottenham have had a really good window so far. Perisic is a good player. Added to the business they already did last summer as well. So you presume as a good buy as well if that all works out. So yeah, I'd stick with the same 4 for now. I think Chelsea are in danger of this capsizing because there's so much going on.
Well, exactly.
There's a lot to do,
and I think the things in Chelsea stem beyond like the transfer market, don't they? And they've got transfer issues to fix, but they're the club where no one really knows who Chelsea are anymore. You know,
it's the Thomas Tuchel show, isn't it, at the minute? Which is fine, but I'm not sure that's like nobody else does that anymore. Like if it's Todd Bowley's doing the deals, but it's if it's Tuchel doing everything else, identifying players, picking. We don't know, boy. That's the issue Chelsea have got is they haven't got a team in place to do the transfers during the transfer market again. I've got more sympathy with Chelsea than I have Man United because it was quite unforeseen that this all came relatively quickly. United have known for ages. Edward was last year for ages. They knew they were getting Ten Hag a while ago. But yeah, Chelsea, like I say, looking at the list there, Rudiger, Christensen.
That's about it for notable names.
But then Aspilicueta's up. There's
Lukaku as well. Timo Werner's now.
Yeah.
There's rumours of Timo Werner going and stuff like that. Like they are. I think they might struggle a little touch this season. Chelsea,
I just think Sterling will be a great Sterling, Havertz, Dembele, if it is him, that looks like a good 3, and then behind that you've got like if Pulisic stays.
They were built
Ziyech
on
stays.
solidity though, weren't they, Chelsea? And right now, Rudiger was the linchpin of all that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it takes time for them to get better.
Look what happened when they started their defence, stopped working. Their whole season fell apart. Because they're going
back for Nathan Ake. He
Yeah,
just goes in between City and Chelsea.
They're
He's
dropping 100 million to City
Bournemouth.
for Sterling and Ake. Basically, aren't they? It's a bit mad, like, to be honest with you.
But it speaks to the lack of, again, we've had this centre forwards, lack of goal scorers in the world, and lack of good centre halves in the world. That you can go. There's a lot of clubs who are just looking around for solid,
especially ones with left foot.
It looks like they've lost Petr Cech because of the way that they dealt with Lukaku as well. Like he was the one who was saying, "Don't be giving him back. Like keep him for another year." And now he's ended up walking as well.
Yeah.
Which obviously, I agree with Steve. I think Tottenham and Arsenal looks like joined up thinking. The others doesn't quite yet.
To answer Joe's question, based on the transfer window so far, you'd say Arsenal and Spurs are the two that have done.
That's a big gap to Chelsea, though.
Oh no, but just based on who's done the best transfer business so far. If you were looking at like who looks the most settled, Spurs look settled, and Arsenal continue to do pretty good business for what they are. Chelsea are a mess. United are a mess. Who am I missing there?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then beyond that, you can't really see
West
anyone else.
And stuff for the next tier down. Not really.
Suppose. So right, well, let's talk Liverpool then. Are we feeling about Liverpool's transfer business, Chris? Because it's impossible to gauge the true mood of Liverpool fans by going online, because it'll always feel angrier than it is during the summer. I mean, I've sat here in summers where we've won the Champions League, haven't finished on 97 points and then won the league and all those things, and people just get dead wound up about stuff.
I'm excited. Everyone I've been speaking to in person seems to be the same sort of way. They're really hopeful at the moment, and I think that's the way you have to look at it for me in pre-season. Look, ultimately, the Sadio Mane thing, we've talked about it to death, I know, but just to put a nail in the coffin of it, we're a worse side for not having him. In layman's terms, but we've got the opportunity to become a better side, I feel. When you take the age profile of Nunez and Carvalho and Ramsey maybe rounding out the squad a little bit as well. So I'm excited about this season. I think it's going to be tough in the first 6 or 7 weeks when we got games that we really should win. We need to nail those games to give ourselves an opportunity to become the side that we're probably going to be by the end of the season, but we need to get the points on the board early for that. I think for me, overall, I'm happy with the business. I think, I still want a midfielder. Whether that's going to happen, who knows? Whether it's about, is the right profile of player available this summer? Could they be available next summer? I don't know. But, for me, I'm really excited to go and see how the team plays again, because I don't think I went into last season in quite... I felt Liverpool were going to get back to where they were, be it first or second in the league after the poor previous year, where we obviously scraped into the Champions League. There's a lot more hope this season than last season in the break, because we were just better last season than the season before, weren't we? So for me, it's about, look, it's toe-to-toe with Manchester City again. It's 1 in, 1 out, which I think is important, but I do think there is going to be a stylistic change slightly. I don't think it's going to be a formation, so I'm excited to see what Klopp and Pep Linders come up with.
It's the first summer in a while where we've signed players to get really excited about, and this is, I mean, if you think about signing Thiago and Jota, that kind of goes against it, but because that came on the back of the COVID season, the title-winning season, where it was August, in fact it was September pretty much before we got there, we had those deals over the line. It's mad to sit here kind of stewing in anticipation, for me anyway, on like, we've got, I'm really excited. I just want to see Nunez. I want to see the first pre-season game. I want to see what he looks like in the shirt. I want to see him, how he moves. I want to see the first shoots of how he links up with that. Carvalho's a complete unknown to me. I've got no idea even whether he's going to be in the front three or whether he's going to be a midfield player for us. So I agree with that. I think it's exciting. I think the Mane thing is spot on. You've lost a world-class player, a proven world-class player who can do the business. But I'm less concerned about it, because ultimately, I think we found a way to get him working as a centre forward. But I don't think we need Mane as a centre forward. I think we had Jota and Firmino, and if they'd been a bit fitter, I think we just wouldn't have played there. We've already bought his replacement in Diaz. Diaz is much more exciting down that left-hand side than Mane's been for a couple of seasons. So I feel reasonably
And that's really exciting,
calm.
Diaz.
Yeah.
we saw what he was able to do when he come in on the back of about 30 odd games and was able to just go until the end of the season. I'm expecting a big jump in his performances in end product this season. And that again is exciting because we saw what he was able to do with not a lot of training. Because we know what the back end of the season's like. You know, you don't have training. It's rest, recovery, it's game day. It's rest, recovery, it's game day. Rinse and repeat. What is he going to be able to do when the coaches have actually got time to improve him?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, similar really. You're right. In the very short term, we're a worse side than we are next year, than we were last year, I think. But I'm excited by Nunez just because it's the first time we've really done this. Like, big money on a centre forward. We don't really do that. Benteke was probably the last one.
We were discussing this on Journo Insight, me and Neil Jones, last week about that. You going into a summer of like, you've signed a number 9 and what you know, can't wait for the season to start to see what he does. And you're right, Benteke is probably the last one unless you want to count Dom Solanke, which is fine if people want to do that. But the one that stuck in my mind was actually Djibril Cissé. We had that, like Michael Owen was leaving that summer. I was away in New York for that week, I think, leading up to Owen left. Cisse had been signed for a while, and it was counting down to Spurs on the first game of the season.
Because even like Andy Carroll was late in January. There was all drama going on. You didn't have a full build up.
Suarez was January as well. You're talking about Cisse, Torres
for me is the last one.
Yeah,
you know, for me, I know Suarez became the centre forward that he did, but I wasn't.
He was overshadowed by Andy Carroll.
I wasn't as excited about Suarez as I should have been, having watched his career at Liverpool. Nunez is different when you think of the age of the player. That also fits in with the Torres thing. He's a guy that you've started to hear rumours about. We heard them for a lot longer about Torres. You know, he was captain in Atletico at 17 or 18 years old, wasn't he? And that was when Liverpool spent world-class money on a centre forward. Andy Carroll and stuff, there was bigger signings back then. It was close, don't get me wrong, but right now we're up at the upper echelons of transfer fees. So for me, the Torres thing, although completely different player profiles, is where it links back to.
I just trust these lots to know what they're doing. Ultimately, like, if they think he's good, that's good enough for me. And I've seen him. It's good that you've actually seen him play. And he looks exciting. He's got a lot going about him.
He made one of the best defences in the world. He struggled against him in us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He beat Alisson with a one-on-one. Like, nobody beat Alisson one-on-one. And he made it look quite simple as well.
And if you can do that without having played with Alisson week in, week out, you know what I mean? He's going to get better at those kind of things. You know, she's getting sharpened by being up against those.
I think the midfield thing's interesting, like this.
Well, I want to talk about the concerns, because the midfield, I think, strikes me as the biggest concern. If you're watching this live, and I want people to throw in some concerns they've got with the squad, with the transfer business, and we'll talk around them if we can. The midfield's the one that I see talked about most.
The numbers are fine.
Well, let's go through the numbers for me.
So, Fabinho, Thiago, Henderson, Keita, Milner, Jones, Elliott, Chamberlain, 8, effectively. We don't know what Carvalho is going to be, but of those, they've all got some type of question. Not ability-wise, for some of them. Some of it's age, some of it's fitness concerns. Maybe Oxlade-Chamberlain's done where you talk about maybe the level. And inconsistencies with the two young lads, which is to be expected. So the numbers are great. There's 8 of them.
Did you mention Milner then, by the way?
I think so. I did. 8 into 3 sound every week.
And Jay Spear.
You get number 9.
Spio, welcome back, Jay Spear, into Liverpool.
I was so excited when I saw his Instagram post. Was it yesterday saying first day? I was like, go ahead, lads.
So good, so made up for him, top fella.
If you get him, there might be a chance. Yeah, you might doss him out in all the cups. But like, so 8 into 3 goals, I get it. But there's a lot of questions about some of them.
Can I ask the question on that? And I know you're not necessarily all in this, but someone to play devil's advocate on this. Are the concerns we had over the midfield any different to the concerns we had last season over the midfield?
I think,
are they better or worse than they were?
No, because I think last year we just lost Genie and we were like, what's going to happen here? And it turned out it worked okay. I think it's just an age for some of them. Is it young, old, and then a bit of fitness and inconsistencies?
Because on the fitness thing, Chris, the reason I raised this is because I remember this argument from last summer, and it was Liverpool haven't got enough players, or people go, no, we have. It's just that we've got concerns over the fitness and the consistency and the availability. And those centred around, and I just, for me anyway, I don't disagree with it, because theoretically any one of them could go out for ages, because every single one of those midfielders has missed chunks of the season, at various points over the last couple of years through injuries. Some variety of circumstances we don't need to go into. But for me, anyway, that what I know this time, a year on, is Naby Keita had a largely injury-free season and got to a level,
season,
and a level that we hadn't really seen from him previously. Okay, we got a bit more out of Thiago than we got the year before. Jordan Henderson played more games than he's ever played for Liverpool, ever, which is insane. Fabinho's still the same. I have no difference in change of opinion on the Fabinho stuff. Milner's a year older, I get, but Milner's still Milner. Oxlade-Chamberlain, there was nothing wrong with him, I don't think. It was just that he wasn't
used.
Yeah, exactly. But he proved his value as the last choice of midfield. Elliott's an unknown, but of course we weren't even considering him as a midfielder this time last year. And Curtis Jones, I'm hoping he has a big season, but
it's hoping, and that's it. I get it, because when you look elsewhere, when you look at Manchester City and they've just signed probably the best striker in the world, or one of them, and you're thinking, are we going to keep up with them? They're signing another midfielder as well. They've signed Alvarez, so. I think that's the concern. Where can Liverpool get better? Well, we're not getting.
Do we need another name? Is that people's
name?
issue?
I think it's level. So I think undoubtedly we've got world class players, but you're not going to improve the goalie or the back four. That's as good as you're going to get. You're not really going to get better than that front three now, considering what we've just spent. It's hard to bring anybody elsewhere who's going to be there. I think what it is, there's not so much names, but I think that you can say it's not that difficult, I don't think, to make an upgrade in midfield. I'm quite happy with all of them, and ideally what I would do if I was in charge, I would look to see if I could get rid of Oxlade-Chamberlain and then bring someone in who's better than Naby, and then everyone else shifts down the level one. And then, so Harvey Elliott isn't choice number 7, or Curtis Jones, whatever, they are 7 and 8, not 6 and 7, but so you've got, I still think Liverpool's best midfield will be Fab, Hendo, Thiago. Naby's very close to that on his level. If you can get someone in there, just another and then everyone else is a squad player, I still think.
Does the age of Curtis Jones and Elliott?
Here's my issue with Liverpool's midfield. We've got one player in the prime.
Yeah,
Fabinho.
Yeah,
that's the issue. If you look around the other areas of the field, we've got more than one player in the prime. It's the engine room of the team.
It should be Naby should be though.
Yeah. Fine, but he's not. He's not as good as he was for Leipzig a few years ago, as far as I can see. So for me, Fabinho is the only player in their prime right now. I think we've got a fantastic midfield for the Champions League. And I agree, the best midfield Liverpool have got is Jordan Henderson, Thiago and Fabinho, and that in the latter stages of the Champions League is going to win you matches and get you through. Have we got the midfield to turn the draws in the Premier League into wins in the Premier League? And that's where my issue probably comes from. And Harvey Elliott might be able to do that because he's a little bit more attacking. Curtis Jones might be able to do that, but they're too young right now. We need to see it consistently, week in, week out. So have I got general concerns over the midfield? No. We've got a great midfield that can win games of football. Nunez might be the guy that turns the draws to wins, by the way. It might not be on the midfield, but looking at the way the league's going, looking at what Gundogan was able to do for Manchester City, the way runners from deep seem to get a lot of goals. Naby Keita's our best one of those. He doesn't get the goals when he gets there.
Yeah.
So that's what Liverpool need to improve upon.
I agree. I broadly speaking, I just don't think you can have a perfect squad. I just don't think it exists. No, because I think you can look at any team squad and say, and we'll do it in a bit when we look at what other teams have got and our rivals. Even I could pick holes in Man City's squads if I really,
You've got no Fernandinho.
Well, yeah,
no centre half.
Well, yeah.
I think what the issue though. I'm saying I think we need a midfield, but I'm happy with Liverpool's decision if they don't think there's somebody who they can get. I see it now, people just throwing names out. Well, he's better than him, and he's better than him, and he's better than him. Well, are they really? Liverpool will have done the whole... Those players that people are mentioning, Liverpool know everything about.
Sal, last year, everyone was up in arms over Sal. Look what happened to him at Chelsea.
I think that's a brilliant drop in, Chris, because that's where we're at, and that's where I think we need to be wary of this. Of Liverpool need to go and buy Jude Bellingham, but if they can't buy Jude Bellingham this season, then don't go and buy a Saul Niguez, because what's the fucking point?
And they're all good players, but Liverpool will have done their homework, and if Liverpool wanted them, then they'd have went and got them by now. So I trust them 100%. I really do, to know what they're doing, and I think Jurgen's involved. People who talk about it from a money angle, I disagree with. I don't think it's a money thing. I think the money's there because they bid for Sadio Mane. So I think the money is there. If the players right, Liverpool won't just panic and go, we just need that midfielder. They'd rather keep Oxlade-Chamberlain around for a year than just panic buy a midfielder, and they'll wait. And they've always done it, and some people like it, some people accept it, and some don't. It's worked a couple of times.
It's just that I think it feels like because City exist, it's like you feel like you've got to be absolutely perfect.
But we finished 1 point behind them.
Well, and again, that goes back to a little bit of that point of and where I'm feeling of this is the team that played every game of footy last season. Now, okay, if we're gonna play super devil's advocate on this, it only delivered 2 pieces of silver. It didn't deliver the 2 bits that we really wanted. But I wouldn't really. I mean, it comes down to 2 games of football ultimately, at the end of the day, and one of those games wasn't even our game of football. The other game was Man City's game of football against Aston Villa.
My point before when I said about the midfield can win games in the back end of the Champions League, that's the team that beats City. Yeah. That's the team that I think Liverpool play against the Cities. It's what is going to happen in those other games. Who's going to step up and be the difference maker? That's where it comes down to. And unfortunately right now, we haven't got proof of any of them being able to do it. Now, they all could. It exists in possibility that Keita steps up in those games, Harvey Elliott steps up in those games, Kurt Jones steps up in those games. But until they do it, you're always going to think there's somebody better out there.
Did something just break under your foot there?
No, I kicked me chair.
I think it's
naked legs.
I think there's room to say as well, like, Hendo at 6 is a better option than Fab in certain games. Yeah. So to throw Hendo in there, who's in front of him? Does he trust Thiago and Naby to play in the same midfield? Because if he doesn't...
The most telling thing is the City's semi-final.
When he plays all 3 of them.
When he doesn't play Henderson.
Yeah, and that's a good team.
He plays Naby Keita in that game.
Presses them to death, and he was brilliant.
And we talked about this at the time, about how like the evolution of Liverpool's midfield, it was most starkly contrasted in the Etihad game in the league, where that midfield wasn't good enough to beat Man City's midfield, because there wasn't enough guile. And there wasn't enough quick movements and quick turns and transition and all that kind of stuff. And that was where you could foresee a game where we do need to up our level. And that, again, it boils down to if Harvey Elliott hasn't played enough games of us to be able to say this 19-year-old lad is going to be the transformative effect on our midfield. He could well be. I did see enough of those bits in the early couple of games to suggest that's clearly where he's been geared towards, because what we've been so built on Liverpool's midfield being an engine and being the thing that drives everything else around it. And when I saw it stacked up against Man City's, and they've got Rodri, and then effectively in a double pivot with Bernardo Silva, who is good enough to play in a front three, in any front three in world football.
And Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, and Kevin De Bruyne playing ahead of that, and playing nothing but rotating 3 in front, going, oh shit, we look a little rigid by comparison to that.
The problem with that for us is that Naby Keita bombs in some of those games. Not in that Man City game, but how many times have we seen him where he's been pulled at half time?
He's the key,
it's consistency. Twice. It's consistency that you need in those big games, isn't it? And that's why he tends to fall back on the Hendo, Thiago, Fabinho.
Naby solves a lot of these problems.
He does if he's
good.
Yeah.
And he's consistent.
And when he's good, he's brilliant. But you need to become world class. You need to be brilliant and consistent.
Or when you're having a bad game, your level is still at a point where you realise you're having a bad game, and you don't negatively hurt the team. You might not be like, I think Jordan Henderson's bad games are bad, and you can tell when Hendo's off it, but I don't think he's like a hindrance to the team. He just he exists. Naby, I think, hurts the team when he's playing poorly, like, because of his style of play. If his press is a second late and he goes and misses it, he's gone. Where I think Hendo, and to an extent Milner actually, sometimes they realise that let's just keep it very, very simple. I don't think Naby's game's built around that. And the times he's done that, where he has relatively kept it simple, he's looked really good. Like, I think he got through in against Chelsea in that cup final, and I don't think he'd had time to really prepare. He got basically go and beat Thiago. Well, that's impossible. Mm-hmm. So he was relatively calm in it, and he done well. And that encouraged me.
And
that
some of the
does that
results
more
that
often.
We've had with Keita, I mean, he played in the 5-0 at Old Trafford, didn't he? Naby Keita?
Yeah, best player, probably.
Yeah. So, like, when he's on it, when he's on it, and that's what we need to see from him.
The semi-final against City was unplayable.
The thing about it, I don't think Naby, to my mind, last season, I can't think of a game where he was off it. In the same way,
it was only Villarreal, and we were all off it.
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit of, we chose the wrong team, or we had the wrong approach. Albeit when you've got a 2-goal advantage, you don't really know what to do in an away game. But the games we talk about it's Aston Villa when we got absolutely tonked in COVID season, and Real Madrid away, where in COVID, in the COVID season as well. What I've noticed about Naby is his base level's gone up.
Yeah.
He's actually he's now becoming a 7 out of 10 footballer every week for us. But I'm not sure which of the midfield roles he actually fits, because at the moment he's the 4th choice midfielder, and he'll just fit. But he'll fit in for Thiago and he'll fit in for Hendo, and I don't know which he's better in, because I think you get the more exciting Naby on the right. But I think you actually get a much more rounded Naby Keita performance when you play him on the left. He's more physical.
And I think that's because of the role of the midfield. I think, you know, you have to be more rounded, I think, on that left-hand side, because you're taking over Thiago's position. You need to provide balance with what the side's used to, and you're providing balance with Andy Robertson and the left winger, which is different to Mo Salah and Trent, where Trent can pop up fucking anywhere, which leaves you space out wide to go into and stuff like that. So
I think the
thing on that, though, is that what I think that's an issue, is that not knowing or not having another player where it's a bit more nailed on. You know what I mean?
But that's on him. That's what I was say.
Well, no, it's also on what else we've got. I think if Harvey Elliott doesn't get injured against Leeds, there's a chance that it's just him and Jordan Henderson in rotation on the right. It's Naby and Thiago in rotation on the left, and then Kurt Jones does bits and pieces, and Milner does bits and pieces, filling in as and when.
Naby Keita should be in Liverpool's team. Like, it's on him. He should have made himself undroppable. That's up to him. Yeah. The reason he doesn't play is because of his levels.
Yeah, but people don't choose to be injured as well. By
no, I get that, but even when he hasn't waltzed into the team, just kept his place. Andy Robertson got in because someone got injured, and he just kept his place.
Yeah, but also Andy Robertson never gets injured.
No, so it's pro. I get it. Flip side, and he took over Albi Moreno, which is easier than displacing someone else. I get it, but like, you can make yourself undroppable. Luis Diaz, by the end of the season, was playing cup finals. He turned up in January. That's on him. Like, he took Jota's place, and again, fitness and stuff related to Jota.
Well, you could argue Naby Keita took Jordan Henderson's. We're starting to take Jordan Henderson's place by the end of the season.
Go and do it. Go and take the place. Go and take Henderson's place and say, I'm playing. I'm making myself undroppable. Put 9s out of 10s in for 4 or 5 weeks on a run and make yourself undroppable. He can do that. There's still places in this team which are up for grabs. And I say there's a couple of them. There's a centre half position, there's a midfield position, and then there's one of the front three that are up for grabs. Like Jota can go nail himself down, and Nunez might not become a factor until whatever. He might take his time to get in, because Jota just starts like a house on fire. Kanate can just say to Joel Matip, I play now. I'm playing. Yeah. He was almost there anyway. Yeah. And there's one in midfield, and it's Naby's the closest to it. He should take Jordan Henderson's place.
Yes.
He should go in and say, you know what, I'm not getting past Fabinho, and Thiago's pretty special, but I reckon I'm better than Henderson. I'm just going to prove it.
I think this season we see Hendo's time split 50-50 between 6 and 8, and that'll be those games where he'll be rotating with Fabinho, so they're doing the 60-minute, 30-minute thing as well. I think
it's more sometimes he goes 8 and you might take Fabinho off and just drop him back and throw somebody else in as well as that. The thing where I'm really excited is to see the right hand side with Trent, with Elliott, and with Mo Salah. That's the thing that I think Liverpool improve with the most if Elliott plays consistently and plays well. Because I see that the ceiling over there is much higher with Elliott than it is with Naby Keita. I think we know where the ceiling is with Naby Keita, and he's really good. But I think Elliott's ceiling is higher.
It's the lack of pace with Elliott worries me. A little bit. He slows the game a little bit too much.
But you put pace ahead of him. You know what I mean?
And Henderson's not.
Thiago's not fast. I mean, Henderson is fast actually, but you know he's quick, isn't he? You know what I mean?
But let's say that starts Chelsea, didn't it? Jürgen obviously loves Harvey Elliott, and he's the right side of the fielder now. That's what we know he is in the squad. So I think
think with him, I always thought at the start of last season it was about Salah and Elliott switching places, and actually as the season went on and Trent started to play more in the middle, it started to make sense more to me why Elliott was there, because he's comfortable just going into that right hand side space. Salah's going inside, Trent's taking up a sort of central midfield position. What a great lad to have there, a natural winger to be able to play that. And that's where I think when we were good at the start of the season, when Henderson came into the side, it was the three of them in these little triangles. Yeah. For me, Elliott's the best for that role.
And what he is as well, he loves a little threaded ball as well. He's just got a lad who's playing 20 yards further forward. He's playing on the edge of the 18-yard box, and he's so creative, and he's looking to release the lads really in front.
Well, yeah. I think I wouldn't be shocked if we see Trent not go into midfield as much now, because you've got the aerial threat of Darwin Nunez. If Trent just stays a little bit wider and can cross, right? Because Trent goes into midfield.
And still knocks in 30 crosses a game, though.
No,
it doesn't matter where he's from.
That's true, but he goes in there, don't need to try and be creative. You might not need to be as creative if there's a fella you can put the ball on his head.
I hope that doesn't happen, to be honest, because I think
Not
I think
hoofing
that,
it,
yeah,
but...
I think that's for me where Liverpool are at their absolute worst when they're hoofing balls into the middle. So I hope it's, you know, he can be a difference maker, but like not the start of the fucking game. Trent sticking it wide, getting chalk on his boots, whipping the ball in.
I'm not saying like hopelessness of it, but like Trent can put it on his head. There's not aim.
He can pass the ball too.
Not Spurs at home when we were just crossing to nobody. Like Trent can put it on Nunez. Like he did it for Jota a bit. Not so much a cross, as a pass to his head, if that makes sense. Like the better terminology of it.
It's going to be interesting to see, because we talked about that, like adding, you know, what are they bringing? I saw someone trying to use Naby's Premier League stats to a goal and assist return to kind of bash him on this, but
I think that's fair though. Not bash, but I think Chris is right. If we're saying where can Liverpool get better, we did score quite a few
I'm not.
goals.
No, sorry, I'm not saying. I agree, I do. But just looking at what Liverpool's midfield did last season across all comps, Jordan Henderson 56 appearances all comps, 3 goals, 7 assists. And obviously, we can make cases for all this. Thiago Alcantara, 39 appearances, 2 goals, 5 assists. Naby Keita made 40 appearances and got 4 goals, 3 assists. So, you know, he's there. He's actually contributing in probably, I would suspect, let me just quickly contribute, in less minutes than both of them as well. He's actually getting very similar numbers to what they're doing. It's to what I'm saying. He's holding his own in the midfield, but I think what we're all saying the same thing. Can you add someone who breaks out above that? Can you add a Kevin De Bruyne to your mix?
I just want double figures midfielder.
Yeah.
It can be low double figures, for God's sakes. Honestly, it can. 10 would be lovely from a midfielder.
Buy your hand off an Naby Keita scoring 10 goals now.
I've had this bet on for the last... How long has he been? 4 years now? 5 years? I've had Naby Keita 10 goals on every single season, because he has that glut every season when he plays 2 or 3 games and he scores a couple of goals. You know, and you think, if you just get him play. Whereas last season he played the games but didn't score the goals. That's it. But that's on. But that again, we don't know whether there's going to be a tactical shift or whatever. Whether we can read that. A lot of people are doing the think pieces, the deep thought pieces on 4-2-3-1, and what role Fabio Carvalho is going to play in this. It's probably just as simple as he's just going to be a rotational option for the front 3, and any idea that he's going to change formations probably a bit wide of the mark. But
I'm looking forward to him, actually. We haven't really spoken about him there, have we? It's like, I get when you sign a kid from the Championship, like, what are you getting? Well, Harvey Elliott came from a year in the Championship and fitted right in. There's no reason why Fabio Carvalho can't do the same, and I haven't seen a lot of him, but I watched once I knew we were interested. January, I kept an eye on him a little bit toward the end of the season when I had a chance. Got a good mate who sports film as well, who was like, you know, here's the business. He could be playing midfield. I think Neil Jones just told us Liverpool say he's a front 3, but I saw James Pearce wrote in The Athletic that he might go into midfield. He could go on the right midfield, and then if he's there, is he a midfield goal scorer?
If we're looking to be more Man City like,
he plays in midfield.
Then he'll do both. Yeah. Because Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden all play in midfield, playing across the front 3. We hopefully looking for a player who can do that. And look, when you're playing in games where you really need to be resolute, he'll be nowhere near the midfield. But when you're playing games where you're going to have 70% of possession and you just want to go and batter teams, that's when you don't need Jordan Henderson playing in an 8. It's a waste of his time. It's a waste of his energy.
He should be a 6
exactly
in that game.
And then you put 2.
Would you be shocked if Carvalho starts at Fulham? I'm not sure. I wouldn't put it past you.
At this point, yes, because I barely know who he is.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, he threw Elliott in, didn't he, early doors? I wouldn't be shocked if he well, again, he has to have a good pre-season and stuff, but I think he'll back him. And I don't think you're going to be afraid to pick the best person. People have the best pre-season. Just pick gets in the team.
I just don't think there's that. I don't think that slots up. I don't know. I just don't know what position he plays.
I meant if he's a midfield. If he's a front 3, he's not getting in. But I still think there's a midfield slot where you could go and get.
I'm just going to zag a little bit and go back to the 4-2-3-1 stuff, because I can't see that we're moving to this formation. And I'll tell you a reason why. I don't think we let Minamino go, because I don't think we've got any other proven 10s in the squad. Like, Harvey Elliott's not done it at the top level. Firmino hasn't done it at the top level for a long time. Minamino did it a few years ago. I reckon if you were to be able to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to play a 10, right? I think you leave yourself options in case one of them doesn't work.
Yeah.
And right now, Liverpool don't have any options there, really. I mean,
it could be a 4. You said that it could be a 4. It could be 4. When we did it last season,
4-2-4.
It was a Regan Jota, like, or he put Diaz as
4-1-2-1.
Basically, it's 2 strikers, but one of them was just off. Like,
We
when
are
he threw
not.
Regan, that's what he did.
I'm saying this right now for the sake. It means nothing. Me saying this as boldly as this, but we're not going to change formation.
I'd be
We're
shocked if we
not,
did.
because Liverpool need to win every game of football between the kick-off of the season and mid-November when the World Cup hits. Our mission is that we need to hit the ground running big time this season. So it honestly wouldn't shock me if, unless someone has a mega pre-season or there's injuries, it wouldn't shock me if Nunez doesn't start the season, Carvalho doesn't start the season, Elliott doesn't start the season, Ramsey certainly doesn't start the season. It will pretty much be the team that played Real Madrid, with the exception of no Mane. You know, it'll be Jota. Jota will start centre forward, or Firmino will start centre forward. Diaz will be on the left, Salah will be on the right, and then it'll largely be 3 from 4 of Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago, Keita in the midfield, unless Harvey Elliott picks up exactly where he started last season.
Nunez has got the best chance.
Yeah.
Nunez has got the best chance for me of being a day one starter.
Yeah, I'd start him against Fulham.
You might do, but Liverpool, they don't need to. This has been my broad point on this. Yeah. We've bought a bunch of lads, and we don't need to start any of them. Our team's really good. They need to prove themselves. We don't need to have that misstep, faltering start. You don't want to give the league any inkling that you're not exactly who you were.
Jota scored the first goal last season, didn't he, against Norwich? Early doors, he starts that game, first game of the season. He had a very good start to the season.
But he'd had a season before.
But he's had. That's what I'm saying. We're not just throwing Nunez in. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he could just go Jota, and I'd be fine with it.
I think I made this point the other week. Is like when you're talking about Jota and Diaz, you know, didn't play that often together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You may as well start Nunez for me and get the ball rolling on that. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Jota wasn't brilliant at the back end of the season when we signed Diaz, so let's get the ball rolling on the future.
Being Fulham's probably sound, but there's a good chance that those lads don't. You know, if you got your big games coming up, he'll go with the tried and tested, and he'll probably run as much of his tried and tested as possible because, again, you need to go and gather. You need to. I think we're going to try and do what we did in the title winning season. And that's just go. Exactly. Go. Because I think
the fixture list lends itself to that.
I think City's got a much harder start. And I think Haaland will probably just come in and score a glut of goals initially. But if they reach a point where they're making a more significant change and they're all in on their significant change, I don't think Liverpool are all in on what they're doing yet. They've got their plan will be to gently transition because we can't afford for it to go wrong. If it goes wrong for City, they'll shrug the shoulders. They'll go and win the domestic cups. They'll piece it together by the next end. They'll spend £200 million the next summer and they'll go again. We can't afford for that to happen. Right, we're going to be doing a bit more on our rivals in a bit, but we have got a big segment coming up for you guys. We did the top 10 greatest Sadio Mane moments as a very special premium podcast over on Redmen Plus. Here is what came in at what number did we pick, Tom? 4. Number 4 on our top 10 countdown list. Go for it. Still genuinely it's like having I don't know what the antithesis of a Nam style flashback is because I associate that with negative things.
Sweat.
just amazing.
Was it you and Tom were on the front row in this one?
Me and Tom were on the front row of the away end. There's an infamous appearance in the Inside Villa Park video on the Liverpool YouTube channel where they could have done us dirty, but instead we actually ended up being a model of inspiration because people had kind of stopped singing. And just contextually for this, Liverpool go into this game, top of the league, City breathing heavily down their necks. We've got City to come in the league. There's a Genk game in the Champions League to come in between that. And Liverpool choose to not play Fabinho in this match because he's 1 yellow card away from a suspension. And they don't want him to miss City. So Lallana starts this. Trezeguet gives Villa the lead, and Liverpool are then left with the rest of the football match to try and get a goal. Bobby Firmino has one disallowed. There's all kinds of, we come close, but we just can't manage to get in here at all. And it genuinely felt at the time like the away fans were just losing their heads a bit. There's a point as well where I think City turned their game around, which is happening in and around that sort of time. and the fear's creeping in. And yeah, in this video, basically me and Tom are the only people singing, it seems, in the way, which is not true, but it certainly looks that way, which is great. And this is the game for me, we've kind of touched upon it already, Ian, where I knew unequivocally that there was no man on the planet who wanted Liverpool to win a league title more than Sadio Mane. This is Sadio Mane's game of football. Everything good we do is being driven forward by Sadio Mane.
The amount of times he just got the ball and ran. He wanted to take that Villa team up on his own. And for me, this is the game where the mentality monsters arrived. This is where that phrase came from. Because with 5 minutes to go and you're 1-0 down, you're not expecting to win 2-1. That ball he put in for Andy Robertson, that's like Trent Alexander-Arnold quality. Yes. That is unbelievable, that ball. And then the little dink header he does to get the winner, it's Firmino, like he's just absolutely class. Sadio Mane won us that game on his own. He was absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, it's one of them games again where he wanted to take the team on his own. He wanted to be the hardest working man on the pitch, and he wanted to go, there's your 3 points. Go and do what you want.
It's not a goal we score very often, that near post corner, is it? And it takes a lot of technique to be able to do it. But I remember this month is when I believed that we could win the league and we would win the league. It's probably not, I don't remember exactly when the date of the Manchester United one is, but it's maybe like December or January time when we actually start to sing it, and it swells. But November was the month for me, and it's after this game where you truly believe that we're going to win the Premier League, and it's because of this goal.
Well, we've had this point where Liverpool are winning every game of football in the league, basically. But actually, it's interesting you mentioned Manchester United. We go to Old Trafford on the 20th of October and we draw 1-1, and it feels like a little bit of a deflation.
Is that the one where Divock gets fouled in the build-up and Lallana's brought on to score? And
yeah. It is, and we've gone there with our 6 balloons ready to wind United up to high heaven and all that kind of stuff, which we do, and it was great. But it felt a little bit like, this was our moment to kind of kick things on, when it reminded you that Liverpool was still vulnerable. It wasn't done and dusted. We'd started the season like a house on fire, and we kept winning and kept winning. This though was the game for me where we had a late win against Sheffield United, which had come a few weeks earlier. That comes toward the end of September. That's Gini Wijnaldum, where it gets Dean Henderson basically chucks one in, which is great. And you feel like you can have one of them, and that was a moment of like, you can't really count on them too many, because that's an error that's cost you that. This felt like the first moment, I agree with you, because where it was like, we're going to find a way to win. Liverpool are going to go to the 94th minute and we're going to score the winner, because that's what we're going to do. And it's like Rob was 87 and mentioned, set up by Mane, and then it's that thing of Mane at the near post. It's the bravery. It's he puts his head at low, boot height. And you do a lot and have done a lot on like Liverpool set piece over the years. He's a brilliant near post disruptor, isn't he, Mane? But the idea that you can get your head to something there and put it in the far bottom corner, it's an underrated technical goal as well.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it. I mean, I mentioned over the years, not to his level, of course, but I used to play near post because I was a short ass, and all my job was just flick it back, lad. You know what I mean? Don't do anything silly. And I'd try that, and invariably, I've done this 3 or 4 times, I'd hit the near post because I was terrible at it. I shouldn't be in the box. I was just not a header of the ball. I was never in those positions. And he's not someone that you think, when I think of Sadio Mane heading the ball in a Liverpool shirt, it's big, powerful jumps and straight on it. It's not slight headers like that. It's a completely different technique for heading the football. Yeah. When Liverpool needed it at their absolute most as well to be able to do it, it's absolutely superb technically.
To the point, the context of the season in this one, Ian, is if Liverpool lose that game, then they finish the game only 3 points ahead of Man City, with City to come. As it ends, Liverpool end up with a 6-point gap and then play Manchester City and beat Manchester City, and the gap is 9 points. And that is what Liverpool plays for.
Sliding doors moments, isn't it?
It is. It's a fundamental moment where, for all Liverpool's start had been brilliant in the league, you're only ever a game or 2 games away from completely undoing because of how good Man City are. That goal, the winning goal from Sadio Mane, there's other big moments. Chris mentioned there's Saturday against Manchester United at Anfield to come in January. There's battering Leicester when we come back from the Club World Cup. But this is the one really where, whether you believed or not at the time, that's the moment where Liverpool take control of that title. Yeah.
So you mentioned the Sheffield United game before, and that one would have been sort of like, phew, we gone that was a bit lucky. I don't think there was any relief in the Villa game when we won it. It was like we'd added an extra gear to our performances. Like, we'll take it to as far as we'll go, and then we'll have another level if we need to. And that's what Liverpool have been pretty much for the past, since Klopp came. But that was when the turning point comes. So now Liverpool can be a goal down with 5 minutes to go, and you do still believe that Liverpool are going to turn it around somehow. They're going to do it because they've got that extra gear.
Yeah. And you think back to, that it gets mentioned so often, and I think it's right, it's a pivotal moment in Liverpool's history with Jurgen Klopp, is the West Brom 2-2 draw. That's what Klopp's talking about. You've got to believe that we're going to be able to do it in the last few minutes of the game. This was one of those games that gave everybody the belief. No one's thinking about leaving the game with 5 minutes to go anymore. You just naturally think, we're going to do this. We're going to find a way. We're going to somehow do this. This is it's a torch paper, isn't it, for all of those moments that happen afterwards.
Completely agree on that. That was a phenomenal late winner from Sadio Mane. Next up in our list at number 3 is another. Yeah, so there you go.
What finished number 4?
What was it, Tom?
An 8-minute clip.
Aston Villa, the late goal against Aston Villa. Check it out. Me, Chris and Ian Young, going through the top 10 greatest Sadio Mane moments. Have a good old chat around him at Liverpool, and bits and pieces. Really, really good stuff. We've got some great clips and moments and memories in there. So yeah, get it in video and of course in podcast form in your native podcasting app over on redmenplus.com. Just before we move on and talk about our rivals, there's a comment from our Club Legend Discord that came in from MP Daniels, just on the stuff we've been discussing. He says, "This feels like a club that is still executing their vision of sustainable football success, that they are properly weighing risk versus reward and trying to minimise risk, ROI, return on investment risk." Well, anyway, there continues to be hand-wringing and consternation surrounding the midfield, but to me there is a bottom line of needing to see what the club have got with Jones and Elliott. Certainly the masses will be uneasy here because player availability is a concern with this midfield, and that also ties in directly with consistency as well. Yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed that there, mate. I that's the thing. There is a doubt because Curtis Jones has got all the talent in the world, but can he put it down consistently? Harvey Elliott is a potential football genius, but can he do it? When the chips are down, he gets put into big games. Will he be able to deliver?
I like the handling of Elliott though, the back end of last season. I really think that was special. Yeah. The way that you bring him in, he gets his goal against Cardiff, and then you sort of take him out the limelight for a little bit, work on himself, but give him that sort of impetus where you're not far away here, mate.
I really like that. I sort of said to him as well at the media day for the Champions League, he was like, go away and have a rest. And he's like, he almost laughed, like he's like, rest? Like, I've not played. I don't need a rest. And I was referring more to like the psychological, go and have a break and get yourself ready.
He's in New York. He's been in New York, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's running. Yeah,
you've seen with the basketball players, boss, that large fella. He again. There's an option for somebody to take a spec, and I'm going back to what Matt. He's right. Elliott was in the team. He was in the team. Jurgen was picking him for big games. It wasn't like just, we haven't got no one else you're playing. It was like, oh no, we're playing Chelsea at home and we're picking you.
There's sliding doors moments in football, isn't there? So that's why we need to see it reproven, because sometimes that can happen, and you can. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Divock, sometimes, and mercifully his injury was a different type, and hopefully it's not the kind of thing that will impact him, have any lingering impact or whatever. But yeah, we'll have to see. We were going to chat about the general running of Liverpool and how it can compare, but I think broadly, and we've seen in our conversation so far, we're all reasonably happy with how Liverpool are being run. There's a couple of random notes. So we were discussing this the other day about Liverpool aren't very good at publicising the small things they do well, and we obviously, when they get things wrong, they tend to get huge things wrong before having to rapidly backtrack and change, which is, again, should be considered. It's a thing. there are football clubs that don't backtrack on big decisions that they get wrong. But like a daft thing that they've frozen the prices on the footy kits through their own retails. Whereas it's more expensive to buy a Liverpool kit through Nike than it is through Liverpool, because they wanted to keep the price, because they thought it was a bit crass to put the prices up in an era when people were struggling. But I mean, the kits are still ludicrously expensive.
Prices are high, but they stayed the same and stuff. So the big ones, you're right, the own goals are massive own goals. It's not deflecting header in, it's turning around and blamming it into your own net.
Yeah.
And that's what they still... But it's been a while, it's been a year, so maybe they've learned.
I'm sure they'll come again.
I thought it was really interesting. Did anyone see the NFT Crypto Crash Premier League article that The Athletic did? I thought that was really interesting. I've actually got a little bit of it here about what Liverpool's NFTs actually did. So they had 171,072 images. They actually only sold 6% of those because there was obviously such a big backlash. If they'd have sold them all for what was on offer, they'd have made £8.5 million on that. But they basically went for about 57 quid each to begin with. They're now worth just under £9 each. So a lot of Liverpool fans lost a lot of money on that type of stuff, really. So that's a big own goal. But what I found really interesting was that every Premier League club did it last season. And so, yes, we need to hold Liverpool to a high standard, but also in an era where Liverpool can't fall behind, I wonder whether this is why all the Premier League clubs kind of went in on it. It's like, well, what if it works type of thing? And I'm not condoning this in any way, shape or form, by the way. It's something that I think unilaterally we all disagreed with. But the fact that every Premier League club did it, you can't also have a go at Liverpool when, you see Manchester United and what they did in the early days of the Premier League and pull away, and then it takes 20 years to catch up and overtake them. They can't, unfortunately, get themselves into a position where they are left behind.
Am I right in saying the NFT stuff was all for the foundation?
A lot of it was for the foundation as well, yeah. It was the hero stuff, wasn't it? So the money, it was meant to raise money for the foundation and stuff.
Which is fine, but Liverpool fans lost money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Everyone
less money than if they just said, "Do you want to donate some money to the foundation?" Is always my take on that. But yeah, I mean, the NFTs. I mean, fucking hell, if you put money in NFTs and lost it, it's not Liverpool's fault, is it? It's your own fault for investing in NFTs.
Yeah,
but they do pull on the emotional side of things, and that's it's different. It's a different type of brand, isn't it, Liverpool? Yeah. Because you love it. Yeah. You know what I mean. And had Nike released them, maybe you would, but
yeah, I think
it's not the same.
Yeah, as I said, nobody gets it perfect. But when you look at, and I think that's why it's interesting is to look around for context at like what's going on at the other football clubs, and when you consider we've had 6 years now of being right at the top bracket of footy without. What have we given up for that? Because I think you'd have to, you make a deal with the devil. You've got to give something up in return. I don't think we've given up as much as some other clubs have done for that, and Man City being the prime example of that. And we're in a position where, and I like the lads who do our equivalent stuff for Man City. Yeah, the two Steves are both dead sound fellas in reality, but there's a lot of like their counterpoint to how their clubs are run is like, well, why should football fans need to be accountants, and why should football fans need to worry about where the money comes from, and why should football fans need to have an in-depth, like a PhD in all the science and financials behind a football club? And I'm glad that we don't have to have that deflection over all this kind of stuff is one point. But anyway, on a more laughing level, like United are a shit show. Great. Chelsea are, this next 12 months is going to be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, because they've been bought by reasonably normal human beings who are just they've just been bought by venture capitalists and billionaires, like you should be.
This is how the world turns.
Not a state-run sports washing project anymore, which is what they obviously sort of been previously, and that's why. I just don't know what we're going to get from them. At best, they can be us. But there's a lot of things that go into being Liverpool. And Man United have been trying to do it for a few years now, and they keep going, we'll get a director of football. Anyone want a director of football job? Hands up. Darren Fletcher, go on. Oh, we remember you. Do you want that job? I think Chelsea will be run smarter than that, but that could go catastrophically tits up, which is going to be very interesting to see.
They're rebuilding from what we all thought would eventually happen. We all knew the Abramovich bridge would burn it's gone in a different way than we thought it would happen, and now it's happened, but it hasn't got, in a way it hasn't.
People were calmed by the fact that they cost $3 billion to buy, as though that meant it was somehow sound.
But it kind of was, but they've been bought by people. It's happened so quickly. This is Roman Abramovich saying, you know what, I've had enough. He had to sell it. Yeah. Like, it wasn't him going, you know what, that's me done now. This came because of what's happened with
this is throwing your belongings in a suitcase and running out the door.
You've just been bin bagged,
basically. Or you've been arrested or whatever. Like the terminology, you've been forced to give it up. Like, that's the difference. Because I think Abramovich did love Chelsea, and he cared a lot. And if he was going to go with his terms, he'd have got it in place. He'd have been all settled, and he'd have sold it to who he wanted to sell it, and there would have been a succession plan. But there wasn't. So that they're on the back foot a little bit. I've got, well, again, a little bit more sympathy.
I think if his yacht captains, his yacht could have clapped him every couple of weeks, he'd love Chelsea as much as he loves his super yacht, if I'm being honest, but carry on.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. Whereas United are a shit show, and they've had time, they're just bad owners. So there's a difference that they are. Listen, I'm not going to say they're good people, because I don't believe any billionaires are great people, but they're not in war crimes, but they are bad at running Man United. Abramovich was a good owner for what he was doing, because it was his vanity project. He was happy to splash the cash. The Dubai group at City are happy to just be a vanity project. They're quite sound. Again, they've got issues themselves, I understand, but that's what we're not. Chelsea.
Well, sport washing is a completely different way of getting into football than wanting to make money. Yeah. Which is what venture capitalists want.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to be a good owner when you're a sport washer, because you have to do things that the club like and that the fans like, because that's the whole point of sport washing. Yeah. When you're a venture capitalist, think back to our first couple of years and prior to FSG, still venture capitalists got it wholly wrong. Yeah. Think back to the first couple of years of FSG. It takes time to instigate what the football
they had to make hard decisions.
Yeah. And they didn't understand what football was and how it differed maybe to the American sports teams that they'd owned, so they make mistakes. Is that what's going to happen at Chelsea? Are they going to be able to
sacking your entire team? Might not be the like. It looks like already. I was thinking, did he really have to sack Petr Cech right now? Could this not have been like a plan of action? Who's his replacement? Oh no, it's just nobody. Again, it feels like he's come in, he's took over, he doesn't like it, and he's going, you know what, we're changing that. And it's almost like ripping the bandage off, and he's maybe willing to have a year of pain. Liverpool did it. Yeah. FSG,
they've got a broken arm, and they've gone, I don't really. No, we're going to get a second opinion, but we're going to cut the cast off first.
See what's like under there.
Yeah, I think that. Ow! Christ, okay, sound right. We'll go and get a second opinion.
FSG walked in, and Reina was gone quickly. Cal was like big earners. Chelsea are doing something. They're going to come in and just get rid of everything they think shit, and then we'll fix what's left. Whereas United are like, they're trying to patch the ship up as it's sinking, and then they're doing a very poor job of it.
Are like how you don't notice yourself putting on weight, where you look at yourself in the mirror every day and you look at yourself in the eyes, and maybe in Man United's case, you can afford Boss clothes, so you're still wearing your clothes, and everything. Like, oh, well, maybe this T-shirt is shrinking a little bit. You know, if I put that in the dryer instead of putting that on a half.
Can't stop washing everything at 40.
Yeah.
Washing at 30.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where United.
These guys are broke.
United are still looking at going, well, look at I can still buy I've got these Boss clothes, I've got these Boss shoes, I've got my Boss haircuts, and look, still life behind those eyes. And then you turn sideways, you go, oh, Jesus Christ, you know, I mean, that's that. And
that's so relatable.
Yeah, genuinely. That's why. Yeah, I'm just speaking about myself, to be honest. But yeah, they're a mess, and I
knew he wasn't talking about us when he said Boss haircut. To be fair,
that bit of
that rule does out.
Yeah, there was a caveat of what I can relate to. That wasn't that bit.
But yeah, but the thing with anything is that we've all been in this situation. It's like, okay, I've made a mess of myself. What do you do? And they're like, you can either go, right, I'm on the celery from day one here.
Man United buying bigger clothes.
Yeah, genuinely, but that's what Man United are doing. Man United
a bigger Armani jacket rather than losing the weight in the first place.
100%.
I think like Daniel Levy gets a hard time at Tottenham, but at least again, I think he's doing it kind of the right way, where it's trying to be sustainable, and they've built the stadium, and he is frugal, and I understand that, but like that's kind of what footy should be. That's kind of what it should be. These other owners have tipped the balance so much that it's like everyone wants to be state owned now. There'll be people out there who would love it if Liverpool were owned. Just someone coming from X country, state-owned, and just funded us, like Dubai fund City, like Qatar fund PSG, and because that's all they give a fuck about. Newcastle fans were delighted, a lot of them. Saudi Arabia's come in and said, spend money, and they're going to keep doing it. They're going to have a green kit.
People want their football club to be different things, don't they? And some people just want their football club to be the best team on Footy Manager.
And I don't have to worry about that, not my concern, which you say, which he's not asked. I get to watch City win the league every year, get the Champions League semi-finals, get to the odd final, win loads of cups, got the best manager and the best players. Not my problem.
You need to have jeopardy, I think, and that's what the sport washers don't have.
Yeah.
You know, Liverpool need to make sure that the right people are in place, making the right decisions first time.
Yeah.
And that's the important part. And I think long term that'll help us, because at some point the state capital ones, the sport washers might decide, nah, it can't be asked now. We've done our job here. We've sport washed. We're through. We're done. Whereas Liverpool putting the right people in place that have the jeopardy of, I can't get this fucking wrong, means you get more right decisions.
And you're right, and you point about Spurs there is something that I enjoy about, like, the wins coming from, okay, you've still got financial disparity, but that's a game in and of itself. How do you grow? How growing your finances being
get top
important?
4, build a new stadium.
How do you make the right deals? How do you do that? There's a real excitement and hunger in that, in the various different departments. Winning your game, winning your part of your football club, and then ultimately the decisions coming down to who makes the shrewdest investments and who's making the most, who's buying the right players at the right time, getting the right manager,
selling them at the right time as well is important.
Players breaking out, being managed in the correct way. That's where the excitement comes, and that's the problem, is we're living in the sports washing era of football. And look, there was always reasonable comparisons. There's always been a richest team, and there's always been a poorest team. But the fact that they're playing with different resources and different levels is what makes it a bit, and it makes it harder to love your football club in the same way, because it just makes it more stressful. Like, it makes it so much less enjoyable in its own way of every game is on an absolute knife edge and all that. But on the flip side of that, Man City fans feel exactly the same thing about us, but they don't have the depth of connection, or they won't recognise that, but they can't have the same depth of connection because it's not as organic.
One of the things that I think is really difficult for a well-run side is how to expand your stadium. You know, you can look back at Arsenal and what they did, and obviously they knocked down Highbury and they built the Emirates, and it hurt them for a long time. Yeah. Now, they were probably quite lucky in the timing of it, in that back then there wasn't really 6 teams competing for 4 places, so they were able to just continue to get in that top 4 regardless. Yeah.
Tottenham top 4, probably get beat by Bayern Munich in the last 16.
Yeah, 5 years they were fine with that. They were fine with that 10-2 or whatever it used to be. Tottenham, obviously, I think have come into financial difficulty because of the way that they did theirs. Liverpool, on the other hand, have done it in stages, and it seems to be working quite well for them. And then, you know, what's going to happen with Chelsea in that regard? You know, back in the Abramovich days of last week or whatever it was, they could probably have just started a new stadium and got it boxed. Now, if they're looking at Chelsea and they're looking, well, that 45, 50,000, it's 45, I think 48, isn't it? Stamford Bridge. That's quite tough. And you need to they'll probably be needing to, at some point, get to a 60,000 seater stadium.
I think that's on the agenda, yeah.
Well, how are they going to do that?
Especially in that area, like London, not easy to build.
No, and actually,
United have got that problem coming up as well. Obviously, theirs is big enough, but it's fallen apart. Yeah. City were lucky, weren't they? They got given a stadium basically by the council.
They're not going to need to expand.
And they have expanded just a couple of years ago, didn't they?
They just need the fans to fill it now, which will come eventually. No, the Chelsea thing in that regard, right? Because the stadium thing, they've had this. They had to. The problem they've got is they've got no room to expand. They can't go. There's nowhere else to go. So they were going to go down and up. And the problem is
just London for you.
No, it isn't.
Oh shit, we've got 3. We've got to go down.
That's why every toilet in London's down in a fucking basement. It's a fucking one toilet in a basement.
Or it's in an attic. But the problem with when they were moving the pitch down, the pitches can't survive in that environment because there's not enough natural sunlight. So they had loads of issues with that. And again, it's all things that they need sorting. They're a mess. What I'm thinking with Chelsea is they're going to spend this year, where this is going to be a vital year for them. If they can survive this year and stay in the top 4, then they've got a good basis there to kind of build from. But this is going to be a crisis management for them, because You're right. Gronskaya has moved on, who's been looking after the transfers, and she's now basically on call to sort of help them. Good luck with that. I don't know how well that's going to work. You're right. Petr Cech moving on, Bruce Buck moving on. Bowley's basically taking charge of all this, and he clearly he's not a football operator. So, in the same way that the people who've moved on are. Thomas Tuchel's there, good. They've got probably the third or fourth best manager in the Premier League, so that'll help them immensely. They've still got a core of really good footballers there who know what he's doing, so that will help them as well. But they might only be on a level pegging with Spurs, who have got a little bit less... What's the word?
Depth.
Yeah, and consistency, because Conte's not been in there for a full year.
He's a better manager. I think Conte's the third.
That's what
I think Spurs are more of a danger to Chelsea than Chelsea are to City and Liverpool.
Yeah.
There's more chance that Spurs become team number 3 than Chelsea become team number 1 or 2. Yeah. Right as it stands, I think Tottenham got a really good squad and an excellent manager. The issue with him is he always fucks off after a little bit, so they're going to have to try and keep him sweet. And there's already been rumblings of that. I need my players or I'm going to go. Conte, because that's what he does. He's a very... He's combative. He's a very combative. He's there for a short time and a good time, or for a long time. Yeah. But
relatable.
I can feel the love from that. But Spurs are a danger to Chelsea. Chris was right to reference Arsenal. Arsenal got away with it a little bit because there was no one else. There are people willing to United and Arsenal can catch Chelsea still, even though they're a bit of a mess. Arsenal actually coming out the other end. They look like someone somewhere's made the decision.
There's just a plan from a couple of years ago that they're going through, that they trust. And
we're going to sell all big earners, but do what we did. Big earners gone, invest in youth, get a manager who we trust. It kind of worked with Rodgers.
I'm not sure that Gabriel Jesus is a top earner at Arsenal, though, because that's what he's going in as, the highest paid player at Arsenal. That, I think the signing's good, but that for me was a little strange.
It'd be interesting to see what you get out of him. Is he fully motivated to be their best player, and is he just looking to have the love and trust put in him, in which case he'd be fine. 25 years old.
I was going to say, 25-year-old Brazilian international. If he works out, then he is. That's the profile you want him, your best player to be. He's got to prove it.
We did this on the summer transfer show, is that they've missed out on Vlahovic, they missed out on Nunez, and they were never in the market for Haaland because of where they're at. So they've had to go and get someone who's of a good standard, prime age, who can handle, who's a winner, and he's pretty much
they're able to grow together, their front three or front four probably. Yeah. That's the thing where you look at Arsenal going, in a year or two's time they're going to be really good.
I think Arsenal will benefit from the stability, and it's if they can get in top 4, it will be based upon how badly Chelsea implode or not. I think Spurs are pretty much guaranteed, unless Conte has a major blow up for every reason, but their squad is settled. He's added really well, as you mentioned, even last season. The lads that he brought in early doors, and obviously Kulusevski, and they've got Romero at the back or whatever.
Romero. He's a bit mental, but I like him.
They've got a good squad, and they've kept Kane and they've kept Son,
and they've added Basuma and Perisic too.
Exactly, they'll be absolutely sound. Chelsea at the moment are still, they haven't replaced Rudiger, they haven't replaced Christensen. Thiago Silva's about to turn 38. They've got
Lukaku.
They've got Lukaku. Lukaku's moved on. Sol's loans finished. No, he wasn't really used, but he was still the fourth rotational option or whatever for their midfield.
Werner's making moves.
Kante and Jorginho's contract run out at the end of this season coming as well, which is.
And Kante is another lad who's he's on the wane as well a little bit. So they've got major work to do, and then Man United, again, just go back to it, you went through the names before. They bring Frankie de Jong in, great. Well, there's your Pogba replacement, but you still need to buy a DM.
They're mad, because if they're spending 180 million this summer, easy, close to 200 probably, Manchester United. That is a huge turnaround. That's a huge turnaround in players as well, that have got to get used to a new style of football and stuff.
And they've only just started, and again, they're only just starting to put the people in place at the top. They'd only just started.
It's got to take a few years to get right. That explains why they're going for players that he knows.
And it was meant to be Ralph Rangnick until it wasn't. So the plan isn't the plan, because the plan was Ralph Rangnick was going to be, and now he's not. So
they've got years of infighting coming as well. You see that the fan getting to speak to Arnold and recording it and then putting it out. You fucked that there.
I think I'm right in saying Ten Hag was the guy who said I don't want Rangnick. Yeah. Which, if that's to be believed, you've already got a lad who's walked in, he's never managed the game of football, who is already taken over that football club.
Rodgers started, didn't he? Rodgers walked in.
That's a mad situation. On no games for a club to give him that.
Because people look at Klopp and they go, we need Jurgen Klopp, or we need Pep Guardiola.
You need their teams around them as well.
That absolutely. But Jurgen Klopp didn't come in as he is now. Jurgen Klopp's power has grown as he's embedded himself into Liverpool to the point where he's got more power than he's ever had and probably ever will have. But he had a short contract. And he earned the contract extension, and he needed to prove his worth to Liverpool and prove his way that he could work within the systems of stuff, and he's earned that as he's gone along.
FSG learned from the Rodgers thing, didn't they? They gave him too much power, and it went to shit. So we'll never make that mistake again.
Man United are still going. They're looking at the end product and trying to replicate the end product.
They're trying to get to Alex Ferguson, aren't they? They want their manager to be the messiah who does everything, and he has all the power. Like, there'll be someone. I know
Jurgen's some money on wages. If
Jurgen's got a lot of power, but he's still been told no a few times.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. I think you're right. Jurgen has got more power, but also he's got more trust in the people around him, which therefore means the people around him have got more power as well.
He empowers them.
And that's I'll listen to your decision. Interesting thing.
I'll go and get Mo Salah because you're telling me, Michael. Like he's brilliant. I'll trust you.
Managers, when they're under pressure, double down and they back themselves and they go into. And I always reference it, but I remember Ian Ayre telling me this about AVB and how he was losing his head at Chelsea and obviously didn't have power because you can never have power at Chelsea under Abramovich. So he started doing mad things like
benching Frank Lampard.
He was changing the colours of like the fucking benches in the fucking training facilities and like changing the plants and stuff because he was changing what he could control, and that's what happens is that when managers are under pressure, they'll hunker down. They won't do what's good for the club. They'll do what's good for them.
Benching a long time ago, benching Alan Shearer just like because it was I'm the man. It's like I'm showing me power. I think that's what, and Pep's really good at this as well. Actually, they do empower their assistants. It's like Pep's assistants is now managing a top team. Yeah. Because he was happy to do that. Like he give Arteta the license to grow into a coach and stuff. And Pep Linders runs Liverpool's training essentially. Like Jurgen doesn't have to do everything. He's the figurehead. Like with the Ten Hag thing, it'll be interesting to see because he's got a bit of Rodgers about him. He's obviously had a bit more success than Rodgers had early. He's been at Ajax, coming from Swansea. He's different than Ajax, but like he's almost walking in and gone, right, I'm the man now. That can go one or two ways. He could be the man. He could be Jose Mourinho, and he is the man and just nails it and delivers it. But there's a huge risk on putting all your eggs in one basket. I think that's a risk.
Every club that isn't Liverpool or Man City are trying to be Liverpool or Man City, and none of them are ready to make that step up this season. Chelsea were closest, and the Abramovich thing has totally chopped the legs off that.
Tottenham, I think, aren't far away.
Maybe.
But they haven't got the financial backing that we've got, the ability to, like, they haven't got the City sport washing, and they haven't got the Liverpool global name or fan base to get there. But Tottenham are trying to do things the right way, and I feel like Arsenal, after years of bad owners, it's the same owner, but I'm starting to feel like they're getting their house in order a little bit. They've gone, you know what, basically,
trust the process.
Arsenal's issue is that they're as likely to be the challenger for third, fourth as they are to be Leicester, where it's like you come close. If you all of a sudden you lose the fans,
and you're playing Europa League every week, and it
kills you. They've got a massive struggle on their hands this season, whereas they're ready, and I agree. I think they just look sound. They're buying the right players. They've got the right mentality. The fans actually bought into the manager for
size the club. They could be what Liverpool were when Klopp walked in. Yes, if Arteta's that good, because if they get Champions League, they can build from that. Because the size of the club, the appeal, the money they've got, Arsenal's massive,
and they've got
it.
When invincible, did anyone tell you that?
Ty says it a lot, doesn't it?
Incredible. Right, yeah, cool. We've got loads more content for you guys. We're going to do a podcast extra shortly after this one. If you head over to redmenplus.com, the poster's already there. If you're live, you can go over there and click and be ready to watch us over there. There's loads of other amazing stuff on there. We've got incredible content. It's like Netflix for Liverpool fans. Documentaries, interviews, features, and loads more as well. We recently had expert insight as well, which is a new strand we've added where we speak to people who know what they're talking about in a particular field. You got the insight into Inhaler FC the other week,
yeah, Dr. Raj basically bullshit why Inhaler FC, the whole rumour stuff is just nonsense. He basically said even if they all had asthma and they took the asthma stuff, like it would make them better at footy. Really, it does nothing to it. And he talked about Darwin Nunez's knees as well, and whether we should be concerned. We've had Andrew Beasley on with you looking deep into the facts and figures around stuff as well.
Yep.
And I had Ali Begg on, who knows Aberdeen as well as anybody, to tell me a little about Calvin Ramsey and what we should expect from him. So yeah, I like expert insight, and we've got Cy Brundage coming up this week, all being well as well.
We're going to look at the sports science and how the World Cup year is going to impact Liverpool and the other teams fighting for the top 4 and beyond.
Don't have to listen to us rabbiting on. You can actually listen to people who know.
Oh yeah, exactly. We love a good opinion, but like it's nice to feel the comforting embrace of expertise.
Who does strength and fitness to tell us about it. I mean, perfect, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. European Cup stories with Phil Thompson. The summer transfer show every Monday as well. So if you want to keep up to date with not just Liverpool but transfers around the Premier League and world footy, join us live on a Monday morning over on Redmen Plus as well. JNO Insight to come. There's loads, is what I'm saying. If you want more Liverpool content in your life from every single angle, get closer to the culture of Liverpool and get closer to things on and off the pitch. Redmenplus.com.
Divock Origi, Liverpool legend, go watch it. Awesome.
Oh yeah, there's that as well. And again, as mentioned before, the Mane Top 10 podcast, so make sure you check that out. Right, yes. Podcast extra to follow if you want some more uncut content from
Why did Chris get sacked?
What did he do?
What did he do wrong?
Did he had to lie and make up a story about getting sacked? You can only find out by joining us over on Podcast Extra. We'll see you over there. Ta-ra. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you enjoyed that video. And if you want more from us or you want to support the free stuff that we do here, then please do check out redmenplus.com, our Liverpool streaming service. It's like Netflix for Reds, where we get to chat to Liverpool legends, past and present. We've got great interviews there with Virgil van Dijk, with Jamie Carragher, with Phil Thompson, and loads more as well. Get closer to the fabric of Liverpool, the football club, and the city on Redmen Plus.